Let's say for the sake of argument that I want tickets to this Sacramento Kings Los Angeles Lakers game. When I click on this section and click on these two seats, let's say these are the ones I want, it's not actually going to let me check out with this because I've left one seat stranded, is the word they use, at the end of the row. But this seat costs $400 thanks to some scalping reseller. It's actually not that unreasonable, but in any case, I don't want all three seats. I just want these two seats. So to defeat this scalper, I'm going to see if I can bypass this check. And the way that we can know whether or not we can bypass it is by looking at the network tab in our browser's developer tools. We can see that the last request made was to this reports page, and when I click next and the pop-up appears, no additional network requests were made. The most recent request was still to this reports page. And then there's some like SEO stuff that just happened. But in any case, what that means is that the backend is not responsible for enforcing this check. There is some code inside my browser that is responsible for bringing up this pop-up window. And that means we can potentially bypass it. So we're going to select the keyword stranded, and we're going to go to the debugger, and we're going to Control-Shift-F for this word to see where in the code this word is used. When we do this, we can see that on the main page here, that's this one, the word stranded appears exactly once in this big array of human-readable text that is used for the UI. So, for example, the message, check that your payment info is current, is stored in here, along with every other phrase, probably. And along with the error phrase that we saw, which is, you've left one seat stranded. So what we can do is we can copy the key for this error message, and this will let us search for it in the source code, and we can see where this message is being used. So if we can Control-Shift-F for this error message, we can see that it's being used in this this Webpack bundle, wherever that is. In order to find that, it's going to be under one of these. Oh, here it is. If I click this to open it, and it's going to take a while because this is actually where all of the logic of the code of this web page is being stored. It's 100% of it. So because of that, it's quite big, and it looks like we're good to go. But obviously it's been minified and obfuscated. Our browser can help us a little bit with this if we stop hanging, which might take a minute. There we go. If we right-click on this and do pretty print source, it should reformat this so that it is actually human browsable. It will take a minute. There we go. But all it does is it adds indentation and coloration. It doesn't actually change the names of the variables, which of course are just letters, so it's incredibly hard to tell what's going on. But when I search for this error message, we do get a result in this function, which is named in a human-readable way, called restrict single seat. And if we search for that in turn, we will arrive at this function right here called checkout. And we can see in checkout that essentially it appears to be calling this function, and actually a series of functions, and then using that to decide whether or not to start reserve. We want it to start reserve, but what it's doing instead is this show companion warning modal. So in order to bypass this check, assumedly what we're failing is this get has single seat check, which I'm assuming checks the row to see if there's a single seat that's been islanded. So to bypass that check, we'll just put a breakpoint here, so it'll stop right before it gets to that line of code. And then we'll go ahead and trigger that line of code by hitting next, and we'll see that my browser freezes because I've now paused on that breakpoint. So this is now where we are in the execution of this particular function. And we can see the call is to m.z.getHasSingleSeat. If I go into the console, I can actually type m.z.getHasSingleSeat, and we can see that this is a function. When I call it, it returns true. In other words, there is a single seat in the row, and that's why it's preventing us. So we can actually override this function, because JavaScript is so flexible, we can override this to a function that just returns false. So now whenever I call this function, it will return false. And that should be all we have to do. If I just hit play from this point onwards, it should evaluate that function as false and bypass the message and allow us to purchase our tickets.